Hi, this is Julie from Love's Beginning again today. I'm going to receive something about kids and politeness. I've kind of received the preview to this before, and so I'm going to receive it now. It's for me, for my learning. So I'll be uncovering how I've been perceiving things, and maybe it'll help somebody else out there. Um, so, kids and politeness. The first thing I'm told about it is that we're insisting on a facade and to notice how much emphasis I'm putting on a facade and to let all of that go. So, when the concept of politeness gets poked at for me, um, I feel stubborn, like, oh no, politeness is my last bastion of self control. You will not take that away from me. Well, who's saying that? That's not love saying that. That's not love saying that at all. But even something that we consider to be very good is a way of pushing away what we're afraid of. The only thing we can possibly be afraid of is love, because love is the only thing there is, and everything else is a fantasy that we are making with thought. And that includes time. Time is a fantasy that we are making with thought. So, coming back to politeness, I have not insisted too much that my kids say thank you, because right from the beginning, I was guided away from that. Let them find you say thank you when you think you need to say thank you, Julie. So I do. And I say it a lot. And I realize now I say it with nervousness and anxiety and an eagerness to please. And I'm seeing a lot of that as like, okay, well, time for these walls to crumble. Um, there have been some situations, multiple situations, when I wanted my kids to say thank you and they didn't. And I would say thank you. Um, but so, okay, without blaming myself, I have to be careful here. Without blaming a separate self, because that's just a waste of time. We're going to turn time over to healing now, right? So, without blaming myself, um, how could I expect them to be truly joyful and grateful if I myself was not experiencing that? If my thank yous are coming from a fearful place, how on earth would I expect them to say that, for those words to come out of them naturally and easily? What seemed, in my interpretation, to be quite natural to them was more of oh gosh, how do I say it without judging? Like a disconnection? Was it a disconnection from the ego active in me that was nervous and hoping they would say thank you? So the people around me would seem to be pleased, so I could be pleased. There's a whole lot of pleasing going on. The only thing that can be pleased is an ego. Um, love loves us all the time. Or if we want to talk about God, God is love. God loves all, and that's what we are. We are an extension of that. So it is challenging for me to let go of the desire to see the facade of politeness. But where I'm taken to is back to myself and to see where I am. Politeness is a defense. I've been using politeness as a defense. So if you're in my life and you see me doing that, just tell me if you could be helpful to me. Say, instead of being real with me, you're just being polite. Um, that is where my work is. And my work is not in getting kid A to do thing B so I can be happy or so someone else can be happy. If we want more than anything to be truly joyous, and we are willing to accept the healing that gets us there, where we drop everything else that would stand in the way of that. That journey does not involve forcing somebody else to be polite, to show up with a facade of politeness. Now, am I saying parents everywhere, don't make your kids be polite? Of course not. That's ridiculous. That's just as ridiculous as asking a kid to say thank you so you'll feel better. I guess I'm just saying this journey is a whole lot different than I thought it would be, or than you thought it would be, maybe. It is not about getting people to do things so people can be happy. It's just about appreciating. Appreciating seems to be part of it. Appreciating everybody's being, looking right through the mask of the person, the personhood, the persona, and everybody. And setting down the worry. That's a big one for me. Setting down the worry that people won't be happy if. Now, where do we get that? We could go back to childhood and blame people, but we're the ones who attach to concepts. So that's where it's time for responsibility. People won't be happy if my children don't. You see your children as the extension of your ego, and your ego has to be pacified. My children don't do A, B, and C. Well, the children learn from what they're surrounded with. And if they aren't pleasing me in their interactions, and you know what I think I would want from them that I think I'm not getting sometimes is, couldn't you look them in the eye? Couldn't you say thank you? Couldn't you? But that's all politeness. That's all a facade. Wouldn't I rather admit to our disconnection from each other and allow that to be healed? So evidence of our reconnection to each other, kind of like our awareness of where indeed we are all connected and always have been, so that can come through naturally, easily, and effortlessly. Wouldn't I rather have that instead of a facade? So this is a tough one for me. This is where I have to really look at self-control, separate self-control based in ego, and find the willingness to allow that to be taken from me. That's how I've experienced healing. It's not like I stop doing something, or and I don't experience it like that. It's more like I allow my precious concepts and judgments to be taken away from me. And that can be scary because we think those judgments and concepts and frameworks for understanding what we call the world, what we think is reality, when we allow those concepts to be removed from us, it feels like we're naked. We have no defense, but we don't need a defense. There is nothing to fear. That is the lesson today. If you're doing the calendar lessons from A Course in Miracles, that is there is nothing to fear. That's the lesson for today. And so, and if there truly is nothing to fear, it's not like an ego forces itself to seem to drop all the defenses. It's more like you feel and observe those defenses going on, and politeness is one of those defenses. Then you allow, in my perception, it is like my non-physical friends are there saying, we'll take this away from you as soon as you let go of it, but you've got to let go of it first, and then we can take it away. So when I take away this perception of defensiveness, self-protectiveness, what I'm hanging on to is a layer to protect me from what? Always from love. I'm afraid of love. I'm afraid of the force that makes everything effortless. Why would I want to be afraid of that? So then when I settle down and allow, the perception changes and the enactment changes. and the interaction changes. And that's fulfillment. That's not getting a facade that you thought you wanted, trying to manipulate other people into presenting that facade to you. It is it is beautiful and calm and loving, and that's where my willingness increases once I realize how healing happens, what it looks like, and what its result is. You do just want to go further into it. And so there's a lot of willingness. But as you go further into it, your precious gets taken away from you. I get shown myself as I think the character is Gollum, my precious. And politeness is my precious. It'll keep me like away from you, away from what you could possibly do to me. It gives me a plan for enactment. So I think I know what I'm going to do and what I'm going to say and how things are going to unfold. Um, Gives me a sense of separate self-control. So what? So I can defend myself against you. Politeness has been a defense. So that's a very helpful thing to see. And I do feel a lot of willingness to let everything go. And with a reassurance that what comes through us when we let the defenses go, when we let our insistence that others around us enact our defenses for us, when we let that go, what comes through us, very simply, is love, and it's effective and it's direct. It's not polite. That doesn't mean it's mean. It's just it's the flow, and it's kind to everybody. So here I am in the middle of letting that go. Have a good week of letting go. And I think I have to hit 2 buttons.